Today, as the war continues into another demanding phase, Ukraine's defense planners are focused on a single, stubborn problem: Russia's hypersonic Kinzhal missile. The weapon is launched from modified MiG-31 fighters, reaches speeds above Mach 5, and carries a warhead reported at roughly 1,000 pounds. With an estimated range of about 300 miles, 480 km, MiG-31 launch aircraft can stay outside most Ukrainian air defense envelopes. Its standoff profile keeps aircraft beyond most intercept arcs, while still threatening critical infrastructure. The tactical logic of this weapon is simple: arrive too fast and too unpredictably for interceptors to respond, yet Ukraine has introduced an asymmetric countermeasure that does not rely on shooting the missile down at all. The rest of the day traces how that counter works and why it matters. Against this backdrop, analysts reviewing recent strike patterns in early November pointed to a notable escalation. Ukrainian and regional reporting described a large-scale Russian salvo that allegedly combined Kinzhal, Caliber, and other ballistic systems with hundreds of one-way attack drones. Ukrainian authorities cited casualties and ongoing rescue operations. Independent outlets described a complex attack profile designed to saturate air defenses and complicate command decision-making. While exact numbers come from Ukrainian and regional reporting, the operational trend is recognizable. As 2025 advances, Russia appears to use more hypersonic and quasi-ballistic weapons in mixed strikes of drones, decoys, and cruise missiles to create confusion and exploit gaps. Given those strike mixes, the discussion turned to the physics that make the Kinzhal such a difficult target. The missile's trajectory includes a rapid boost, a hypersonic approach, and potential quasi-ballistic maneuvering over the terminal phase. For ground defenses, this compresses reaction time and complicates radar tracking. A Patriot battery defends a sector. It is not a 360-degree instantaneous shield. Ukrainian Air Force spokespersons have acknowledged that when Russia increases the share of fast ballistic-type shots, the effective window for interception narrows. Some open-source reports call hypersonic weapons Patriot-proof. That wording is overstated, but the challenge is real. If a target maneuvers while covering miles per second, the geometry of interception becomes unforgiving. By late morning, attention focused on guidance. Weapons like Kinzhal are widely assessed to blend an inertial navigation system, INS, with periodic satellite-aided corrections, collectively known as GNSS, which for Russia typically means GLONASS, and occasionally other constellations. INS is robust because it does not depend on external signals, but it accumulates drift. Satellite updates trim that drift, keeping the weapon close to its programmed path. If those satellite cues are denied or corrupted, accuracy degrades, sometimes quickly. This vulnerability, less dramatic than the missile's speed, but far more exploitable, is precisely where Ukraine has concentrated its effort. By early afternoon, analysts were pointing to a reported electronic warfare answer called Lima, fielded by a Ukrainian unit known as Night Watch. Public sources attribute to Lima a mix of jamming and spoofing functions designed to disrupt the satellite updates that a missile uses to refine its inertial solution. The concept is straightforward in principle. First, overpower the extremely weak GNSS signals at the missile's receiver with a locally stronger, carefully timed transmission. Then, substitute slightly incorrect position and timing data, for example, subtly skewed timing, ephemeris, or force the receiver to lose confidence in external updates and fall back on INS alone. In either case, the circular error probable grows with time. A weapon intended to strike a substation, rail node, or storage tank may instead detonate hundreds of meters or more away. Because electronic warfare is invisible, observers look for secondary evidence: impact dispersion versus aim point, path anomalies, and telemetry gaps. In the past several weeks, imagery and local accounts have shown at least one Kinzhal impact well off a suspected target area in western Ukraine. Ukrainian officials and independent analysts have assessed that GNSS disruption is a plausible cause. In the Ukrainian frame of reference, the objective is not necessarily to kill the projectile in flight, but to break its precision. If a missile estimated by various sources to cost around $10 million per unit detonates in a field rather than inside a transformer yard, the defender preserves infrastructure and gets a favorable exchange. The attacker loses an expensive round. The defender expends no interceptor. By late afternoon, some accounts described operators injecting songs associated with World War II. Era Ukrainian nationalism into the signal environment. These claims remain anecdotal. Spoofing works through radio signals and data timing, not audible audio. Yet the core idea they dramatize is accurate. GNSS signals are whisper quiet by the time they reach the Earth's surface. A nearby synchronized transmitter can overpower satellite signals at the receiver. Whether one imagines that as music, noise, or crafted pseudo-satellite data, the effect is the same. The missile's guidance believes a slightly altered story about where it is and what time it is. Over seconds and minutes, a small nudge becomes a significant misdistance. Technically, the drift problem compounds quickly. Well-documented guidance kits show that when GNSS updates are removed, position error can grow from a few meters to dozens of meters within a minute, then worse beyond that. Extrapolate to a fast, long-range projectile. If spoofing or denial begins early and persists, the cumulative error at impact can be large. At Mach 5, a missile covers approximately 16 kilometers, 1 buoy per second. If its navigation chain is being deceived, a few dozen seconds of corrupted updates can displace the aim point far beyond the lethal radius against a specific piece of infrastructure. For example, 3060 SSX, approximately 16 km per s, can yield multi-kilometer miss distances if deception persists. In practice, this turns the missile's greatest asset, speed, into a liability, because it accelerates the consequences of even small guidance errors. By early evening, the analysis widened from hypersonics to Russia's heavy use of glide bombs, guided by UMPK kits. These weapons are subsonic and slower than Kinzhal, but they rely on the same satellite-aided corrections to turn unguided bombs into standoff precision tools. Ukrainian and Western observers have warned of high volumes, thousands per month in some assessments, launched by Su-34 or Su-35 aircraft from beyond ground-based air defense ranges. If a Lima-type system can deny or spoof GNSS for glide bombs, their accuracy drops. Some reports describe bombs detonating short or veering into open areas. Others mention dud outcomes. The strategic significance is clear. Every spoiled glide bomb run preserves a segment of Ukraine's rail, energy, or logistics network without the consumption of scarce surface-to-air missiles, complementing the interceptor economy described here. A Kinzhal round is often cited at roughly $10 million per missile. Glide bombs are cheaper per unit, but costly at the volumes allegedly expended. By contrast, the incremental cost to transmit a spoofing or jamming solution from a ground system is comparatively modest. For Ukraine, managing finite stocks of donated interceptors and a war-strained budget, diverting even a handful of $10 million-class missiles per month yields tangible financial and operational benefits. Preserving infrastructure also avoids repair bills measured in tens of millions of dollars, reinforcing the value of non-kinetic defense. This arithmetic translates well into public messaging because it is easy to grasp. A low-cost broadcast can mislead a high-cost projectile. For donors and domestic audiences alike, it underscores why non-kinetic capabilities deserve sustained resourcing alongside interceptors and radar. Operationally, Lima's reported strengths appear to scale with range and time of flight. The further a standoff weapon must travel under GNSS deception or denial, the more its accuracy erodes. This introduces a paradox for Russian planners. Launching from a greater distance keeps aircraft safer from Ukrainian air defenses, but it also gives the defender more time to corrupt guidance. Range becomes a liability when the airspace ahead is saturated with deceptive signals. The obvious counter for Russia would be to harden receivers, diversify guidance modes, alter terminal profiles, or compress time of flight by flying more direct routes. The contest is iterative. EW increases error. Guidance engineers pursue resilience. Integration with air defenses is also key. Ukraine's air defense tapestry blends legacy Soviet-era systems with Western-supplied batteries such as NASAMS, IRIS-T SLM, and Patriot. Each has finite interceptor stocks and sector coverage. A rational doctrine assigns hard kill shots to what cannot be risked, ballistic class threats heading toward dense urban targets, for example, while non-kinetic tools like Lima disrupt the aim of long time of flight weapons. This economizes interceptors, limits radar exposure, and preserves readiness for subsequent waves. Russian strike packages are designed to overwhelm by numbers and complexity. A defense that adds deception to interception changes the arithmetic. The aim is not perfect protection. No system can guarantee that, but a favorable attrition curve. These figures should be read as indicative and reported. The fog of war is real, and independent verification often lags events. At the unit level, Lima's fielding remains limited based on available accounts. Reports attribute the diversion or disruption of about a dozen Kinzhal shots in a matter of weeks, credited to a single Ukrainian unit. Still, the qualitative signal is important. If a small deployment is producing visible outcomes, scaling production, training, and survivability could extend the effect geographically. Practical constraints remain significant. Spectrum management to avoid fratricide with friendly systems, sufficient power output to dominate receivers at altitude, mobility to avoid counter-battery or air-delivered strikes, and operator proficiency to maintain timing and data integrity under pressure. An emitting system is targetable. Survivability demands frequent displacement, decoys, and disciplined electromagnetic practice. Recap. In simple terms, Lima takes advantage of weak satellite navigation signals. Satellite navigation is a quiet, precise whisper from space. A ground transmitter with careful timing can speak louder in the same language, near the receiver, and persuade it to believe a slightly wrong story about where it is. Done gradually, the receiver does not notice the deception. Done abruptly, the receiver may reject updates and revert to inertial navigation that drifts. In both cases, accuracy suffers. For a weapon whose strategic value rests on precision at long range, that loss is decisive. Speed and maneuverability do not matter if the guidance thinks the target is somewhere else. From a legal and ethical perspective, many observers argue that this method aligns with the defender's obligations. EW that moves impact points away from critical infrastructure and dense urban areas reduces civilian harm relative to precision strikes on those nodes, even though any off-target detonation still carries risk. Ukrainian statements and reputable outlets tend to label battlefield claims as reported, assessed, or alleged, and that caution is appropriate here. Lima is not a force field. It is a tool that changes the odds in Ukraine's favor. It turns certain hits into probable misses, and forces the attacker to expend more rounds for less effect. As the day closes, the strategic lesson is clear. Hypersonic speed changes the timing problem for air defenses, but it does not erase the guidance vulnerabilities inherent in satellite-aided weapons. Even when Ukraine cannot intercept every missile, it can still corrupt the information those weapons need to be precise. For an outgunned country, this is the core of asymmetric defense. Undermine the attacker's most expensive tools with solutions that are affordable, repeatable, and hard to counter decisively. In this war, that pattern is visible across domains. Garage-built drones in the Black Sea, adaptive surface drones, rapidly iterated loitering munitions, and now a maturing electronic shield that bends incoming trajectories away from their marks. Tomorrow's questions follow from today's gains. Can Ukraine scale Lima-type systems fast enough to build a national EW lattice, coordinate it with air defense sectors, and keep its emitters mobile and survivable under Russian surveillance? How quickly will Russia respond with hardened GNSS receivers, more aggressive terminal seekers, or revised strike sequencing to regain accuracy? And as this electromagnetic duel intensifies, will the cumulative effect be sporadic frustration for Russian planners, or a persistent barrier that forces a rethink of long-range strike doctrine across the theater?